6,500 people have now died as a result of Israeli airstrikes. And the UN say that their deliveries of aid to hospitals could stop tonight if they don't receive more fuel. Well, joining us now is Ofer Cassif, a representative of the Hadash party in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Thank you very much for being with us, Ofer Cassif. And I know that you're not in Israel at the moment. What are you calling for in terms of the way that this retaliation for the Hamas attack on Israel is going to be carried out by the Israeli army?
First of all, of course, I totally condemn the war crime, the massacre committed by Hamas against innocent civilians in Israel. But I also condemn the massacre that Israel is carrying out against innocent civilians in Gaza at the moment. You mentioned before that there are more than 6,000 innocent civilians in Gaza that were killed, in addition to the 1,400 innocent civilians in Israel that were murdered by Hamas. That should be stopped. This terrible bloodshed of mainly innocent civilians should be stopped. And unfortunately, it could have been prevented as well had the ongoing occupation was put to an end, and that could have been done by pressure of the international community, which unfortunately haven't done anything to really stop or end the occupation. I am not intending to say that the occupation is guilty in the massacre that Hamas carried out. The only guilt is on the Hamas itself. But the responsibility is the context of the occupation that couldn't and didn't prevent such a crime. And of course, the war crimes that continue now are consequences of and within the occupation context as well. The thing that must be done now is a total ceasefire and exchange of hostages and prisoners. That's the only thing that should be done now. Total.
But Ofer, sorry, I must ask you another question. You don't have loads of time, but how can that be a justifiable response to a group of gunmen coming into kibbutz, coming into towns, killing people, kidnapping people? There must be a response to that, and that's what the IDF have set up to do.
Look, response must also be rational and should never be criminal. Again, the vast majority of those who are killed are innocent civilians, both in Israel and in Gaza. The Hamas is much less harmed by those attacks on Gaza. There are more than 2,000 kids that were killed in Gaza, and hundreds of kids who were killed or kidnapped in Israel. That should be stopped. And it can be stopped. And as I said before, it could have been prevented because the occupation is the basis of all. Again, it doesn't justify neither of the crimes that was committed thus far. But those should be put to an end. We should prevent the next crimes. And the only way is to end the occupation. And at the moment, total ceasefire on both sides, of course, and total exchange of prisoners and hostages. And afterwards, there must be a process towards ending the occupation and just peace between the peoples. That's for the benefit of all. No other way.
Yeah, and I recognize that you're calling for that. Do you, in any sense, think that after this and after whatever response does come, that could be a way forward? I mean, it can't be a way forward if the IDF are occupying Gaza, though, can it?
Of course, I'm against the occupation that already exists in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and against the siege on Gaza. Obviously, I will be against any kind of occupation of Gaza Strip, and I think that in that respect, the majority of Israelis, including within the government, think alike. I think that the majority of them, apart from the real fanatics, bigots, religious fundamentalists within the government who want to conquer Gaza and re-establish the colonial settlements, I think that the vast majority do not understand that that's a total crazy idea.
But this government was voted in. This is the government that was voted in with with Itamar Ben-Gvir and with Netanyahu at the head of it?
There are many examples in history, unfortunately, of governments who were elected and committed terrible crimes against civilians and others. The fact that the government is elected doesn't say that the government is entitled to do whatever that government likes. And we know that democracy is not just about a majority rule, but primarily about protecting the rights of individuals and the minority. So saying that without getting into the question whether it's really the case that this government enjoys the majority, but even if we assume that that's the truth, it doesn't give the government the right or the authority.
Yes. Ofer, I'm really sorry to cut you off. We've run short of time this hour. I really do apologise. I want to speak to you again, but we have run out of time this hour. But thank you very much, Ofer Cassif from the Hadash Party, joining us there. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. All right, let's take a look at the weather.